What's good, Revs fam? My name's Chris, and welcome to a 2020 Revolution Grades video. That's right, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been so long since I've done a video. I did not look it up to see how long it's been. I think it's been something like 2 months. Either way, it's been too long. I am so happy to be back in front of the microphone, in front of the camera, talking to you and talking Revs. And now that I'm back in front of the camera, the season's over. First of all, congratulations to Columbus Crew. I was pulling for you for the final match once you had eliminated the Revolution. I was definitely pulling for Columbus. Did not think that you would pull it out over Seattle, and instead you shocked the world and you beat Seattle by the biggest margin of any MLS Cup ever, 3-0. Zelarayan MVP, totally deserved. Congratulations, Columbus Crew. But enough about that. Let's focus on the players on the roster. How did they perform? We're going to break this down into several different tiers. I have 5 or 6 different tiers. I didn't count them, but we're going to go through them in just a moment here. We're going to look at all the players, how they performed, what grades I give them. I'm going to breeze over some of the players that didn't get so many minutes. I did not take into account any injuries, so therefore the grades are not negatively impacted because they were injured, because that's kind of an uncontrollable circumstance. I did take into account if they were healthy but never made the 18 or never played or always on the bench, or if their name was Sestanovic and they only got 1 game the whole year. Sorry, Seth, don't mean to call you out. So that's what we're focusing on, and let's just jump into it. Alright, so my first tier that we're going to be looking at, and I'm running through these tiers alphabetically. I'm not putting the tiers in any specific order, and then I'm going to list the players alphabetically within the tiers as well. So the first tier that we're jumping into is called Better Luck Next Year. That's going to be players that didn't have a great year and are coming back for 2021. And I only actually have 1 player in this tier. Maybe I've been too kind to the players this year, but it has been a crazy pandemic-filled year. But anyway, the player for Better Luck Next Year is Justin Rennicks. I gave him a D. And I think maybe that's definitely a bit kind. Maybe, should have been a D-, possibly an F. He had 4 appearances, 32 total minutes, and nothing else. He did not create any goals, did not create chances. His expected goals, I think, was 0. He had no assists. Didn't do anything. And with 4 appearances, that's telling me he was at least available for 4 games. I know he spent quite a bit of time with Revs too, but he still got some first team minutes. But only 32 minutes out of 4 appearances, showing that he's only coming in for the last 5 to 10 minutes of a match. I think that's Bruce Arena throwing Justin in there to get some experience. Just run the kid out and let him get a taste of an MLS match. I think he's gotten enough tastes. I think it's time to throw him into the pond and see what happens. That said, I will say Justin Rennicks did have a pretty solid year when it comes to Revs 2 production. He did get 3 goals and 1 assist in 8 appearances down in USL League 1. Not too bad. Not great, but not too bad. I will say the goals that he scored, they were solid goals, and he definitely deserves credit for them. Anyway, enough for Rennicks and enough of this tier. On to the DPs. All right, Justin Rennicks out of the way. Let's jump into the DP pool. That's right, all 3 DPs are coming back for 2021, and we're going to run through Gustavo Bo, Adam Buxa, and Carles Heel. Buxa and Bo both were already contracted for 2021. Carles Heel had his option exercised, which means he will be sticking around, and supposedly he has 1 more option year left on that contract. We'll have to keep an eye on that because these contract details are never fully disclosed. But that was what was floating around initially when we signed Carles back in 2019, yes. Right before the 2019 season. Anyway, jumping into it, Gustavo Bo is what we're going to look at first. I gave him a C+, and maybe this is being too harsh, maybe this is too kind, I don't know. Please let me know down in the comments below. Gustavo Bo, C+, he had 5 goals, he had 1 assist, and 1,330 minutes played. I think we can all agree that it was a pretty inconsistent year. He started off strong. At least he looked strong and then he went into a lull throughout a lot of the year where he had random performances that were strong, not really putting together a lot of strings of goals, and didn't quite show us that same exact Gustavo Bo that we saw in the second half of 2019. However, I will say once Carles Gil was back, Gustavo Bo looked the same. He wasn't filling in those number 10 shoes. Did a lot better. So I did give him a C+ because he's still Gustavo Bo and he still scored some pretty important goals. And I did take into account playoffs when I made these, and he scored that winner against Montreal, which was a fantastic goal, a very memorable goal. And I think he deserves credit for that one. C+ for Gustavo Bo. Could have easily been a C- or a D, though. Not if he didn't redeem himself. So, yeah, let's move on. We got Adam Buksa up next. And I am obviously a huge Buksa stan. I got his jersey right here. And I want nothing but to say A all the time when it comes to Adam Buksa. But I'm going to be as real as I can and remove as much bias as possible. I'm still giving Adam Buksa a C. It could have easily been an F. And I could have been sitting here today saying Adam Buksa should not be on the Revolution in 2021. Thankfully, he turned it around. He had one goal in the second game of the season, the home opener versus Chicago Fire. And then after that, he went 12 games with only scoring one goal. And then in the 13th game, he scored in the 90th minute, I think it was, across from Kakuta Mane. Was that the Kakuta Mane goal? Or maybe it was like Cristiano Pena. I can't remember which one it was. But that was a 2-0 win over DC United September 27th. And Buksa finally got the monkey off his back. Finally got back on the score sheet. And things started to turn around from that point. And he has really grown and shown... I can't say he's shown why he's a DP player yet, but he's definitely shown promise to paying dividends for becoming the third designated player for the Revolution. And also, of note, whenever Adam Buksa scores, the Revolution don't lose. We're undefeated. I think it's including playoffs. We have 4 wins, 3 draws. We're getting 2.14 points per game, including playoffs, which I know you don't get points for playoff games. But that's still an impressive stat nonetheless. So let's just hope that Buksa keeps scoring, because the more he scores, the more we win. So yeah, and moving on, Carles Gil, our final designated player in this tier. And obviously this one's going to be a bit tricky because he was injured for a huge portion of the year. And then I still can't believe how quickly he came back. Maybe I should just bump him up one whole letter grade because he was able to come back from that surgery about a month quicker than anyone suspected would be his earliest possible time back. So kudos to Carlos for really working. And also I think there was some news that the surgery was slightly less invasive than they initially thought, so maybe that had something to play into it as well. Anyway, that's here or there. Let's talk about the grade. What do I got? I'm going to give him the same thing I gave Adam Buksa. I'm going to give him a C, because in the regular season, he really did not produce. Not a whole lot. I know that Gustavo Bo and Adam Buksa are depending on Carles Gil to be there and to produce, but it wasn't happening. Regular season stats for Carles Gil: out of 366 minutes, 0 goals, 1 assist. That's in 6 games. He played in 6 games for the regular season. He didn't play the whole game for all 6. But that's still kind of a jarringly low production output. I will say the postseason saved it, because this season would have been a complete failure for Carles Gil had he not put in the performance that he showed in the MLS playoffs, because he bagged, I think, 2 goals and 3 assists, something outrageous in 3 or 4 games that we played. The 3 games that we scored goals in anyway. So Carles Gil, I give him a solid C on the season for redeeming himself in the playoffs. He's obviously not a C player. We're going to see better things from him, I hope, in 2021. But that's it. That's the DPs. We don't have any more because MLS won't let us have any more. So let's move on. Next category. I'm impressed. Okay, I'm impressed. You did it. Good job. These players, I have 4 of them. they really showed up and put in performances that maybe nobody saw coming. Maybe it's just me. Maybe you saw them coming. I don't know. I don't know what you saw. So I'm going to run through them. I'm going to start off DeJuan Buchanan. I think he has to be on everyone's list when it comes to impressing. He has had a phenomenal season. Of course, he started a lot playing right wing or right mid type thing. And he was definitely in the attack. And his season started in Montreal in Olympic Stadium. And he had a chance to tie the game with a header late and a wide open net. I think he was 5 yards from goal, maybe. We all know it. I don't have to talk about it much more. Off his head, off the post, and Revs lose 2-1, like 2 or 3 minutes later. So that was a pretty terrible way to start the season when it comes to DeJuan Buchanan. He came on as a sub in that game and had a chance to win it, or at least draw it and save a point. And it didn't happen. And instead of that lingering and really derailing his season, he used that to fuel his season. He's had a terrific year. And I think overall I would have given him about a B. He was really well. He performed really well. And the one change, because a B is not what I gave him an A-. And once, of course, when we went to the MLS playoffs, again, you're going to show up in big games when it comes to the playoffs. The switch to right back, and that was out of necessity because supposedly Alexander Butner had COVID. And so DeJuan Jones, instead of playing right back, went and played left back. And Brandon Bai, I don't remember why he wasn't there, but he did not get the nod. They put DeJuan Buchanan at right back, and everyone before that game, once again, it was against Montreal. Once that game was about to kick off, everyone was scratching their head saying, what the hell are we doing? DeJuan Buchanan at right back, this is going to be a long night. And he proved everyone wrong. That was such an impressive postseason that he had. I know he kind of got stymied a bit against Columbus, but I'm going to take 3 out of 4 games of performing anytime out of any player. DeJuan Buchanan, A-, solid year. Keep it going, and I'm sure you got a Canadian national team call-up in your future. Second player, Teal Bunbury. Okay. And I'm calling this list the I'm impressed list. And he's a player that's... We already have somewhat high expectations for. We know what to expect out of him. But he really did go above and beyond this year. He got the Golden Boot, for instance. He had 8 goals playing mostly on the left side of the attack. And that's enough to get into my I'm impressed here. Teal Bunbury. I give him a solid A. That's tied joint second highest rating on the club that I'm going to give out tonight. And the one downside I would say is that he only produced 1 assist all season. I would have really liked to see some more assists from that spot. Teal Bunbury is not going to be the player that's going to be putting in the crosses that players like Adam Buxa are going to head in, or that Gustavo Bo are going to volley in. So that's the one downside on his game, but we didn't expect that from him to begin with. I can't give him credit, or I can't take away credit from something that we didn't expect, and I definitely did not expect 8 goals or a Golden Boot performance out of him. It is actually kind of unfortunate that our Golden Boot was, a single-digit number, but still credit to Teal Bunbury. Congrats on a great season, and can't wait to see you keep improving. Moving on. Henry Kessler, come on. Anyone see this kid coming? My goodness. Virginia, thank you so much for producing such a fine defender. Central defense has been such a hole for the Revolution for such a long time, and Henry Kessler comes straight in and really changed the dynamic of that whole back line. A lot of the success and the reason that we had such a resolute defense was because Henry Kessler was back there stymieing opponents, and he wasn't just picking and choosing his battles to make sure that he would get the ones that he would win. He took anything that came his way, and then when he won the ball, he would advance it back up the pitch. This 23-year-old is playing more like a 30-year-old veteran, and I am more than impressed with him. He had probably, I would say, the breakout performance of the year. And I think that's like an Academy Globe award or something like that. But I don't care. Give it to him. Take it from whatever actress or actor won that thing. Give it to Henry Kessler because he is a flippin' stud. A+, by the way, was the grade on Henry Kessler, in case that wasn't clear. Lastly, Matt Polster. I'm impressed. We kind of knew what we were getting from Matt Polster. We saw him. We were kind of familiar with him. He played with Chicago Fire for, I think it was 2 seasons before going over to Rangers. Maybe it was 3 seasons with Fire. So we were definitely familiar with him. We've seen him before. I gave him a B on the season. He had a solid season. He was only here for half the year. I think it was 15 total games, 758 minutes. He didn't have any goals, but he did get an assist. But he also only plays number 8. A number 6 position. And you're not looking for goals or assists necessarily out of that. Those are nice bonuses, but that's not what you're looking for. I will say Matt Polster needs to watch out on the cards. He did have 5 yellows and 1 red in those 15 games. And that's definitely a worrisome point. But he looked really solid back there, and he actually provided some sort of stability in that central midfield area where we didn't have to worry about attacking players coming back as much to defend because we knew Matt Polster was going to get there. And he provided a tenacity that this team absolutely was lacking. So I thought I knew exactly what I was getting, but he definitely gave more. And I think part of that is because he went out to Rangers and he didn't necessarily have a great experience out there. I mean, I'm sure culturally it was awesome, but as far as on the pitch, it was definitely lacking. He didn't get a lot of minutes, and he has something to prove, and I think he's doing that. Matt Polster, great job. Keep up the great work, and I can't wait to see you in 2021. Anyways, enough of being impressed. Let's move on. So long, and thanks for all the fish. Yeah, that's right. That's my next category, next tier, and let's get into those grades right now. All right, so we've looked at 8 players now who are going to all be here in 2021. But what about the players that are not going to be returning? I got 11 players that are not going to be back for another season with the Revolution, at least as of today. And that excludes Isaac Ankang and Nicholas Firmino because they didn't have any first-team minutes in 2020. So let's jump into it. I'm going to jump right at the first player on my list. Well, not the first player. He's the last player on my list, but I'm going to look at him first because he was traded mid-season away from the Revs. That's Wilfred Zahibo. I give him a C-. Definitely expected more out of him. Maybe that's a bit of a kind grade. He had 3 appearances, 180 minutes, which means he went 3 full games when he was out there, and that was it. He had no goals, no assists. He had no expected goals. He also had no yellows and no reds, which is a good thing for a defensive midfielder. But that's all that we saw of him. It's hard to really put a grade on that. C-, Wilfred Zahibo. Moving on. Let's look at the players that we've brought in. I have Lee Win, who will not be around next season. And then I have Kakuta Mane, who will not be in next season. And Tommy McNamara, who also is not going to be in next season. So let's jump at them. Lee Win, I'm going to go at him first. And hopefully, in my opinion, the Revolution offered him a contract to bring him back. I would like to see Lee Win stay. He is a club legend after all. And I don't know how many other options are out there for him. And then looking at our side, if Carles Gil goes down again, we don't have anyone else to fill his shoes. Lee Win did a very serviceable job in Carlos's place. So if we ever need that again, hopefully we don't. But I think it's worth bringing Lee back. And I gave him an A- because he came in and really performed at a time of need, and gave us a few solid months of actual football. It was really great to see. And so I have 719 minutes on the year for him. 1 goal, 1 assist, which is a little low, it feels like. He did have 2 yellows, which that's fine, considering that he played in 12 games. No problem with that at all. I do wish that he had a bit more production as far as the score sheet goes, but what he did produce that you don't see on the score sheet is he created space for other players. He made passes to other players who, maybe he would gotten a hockey second assist on. Although there wasn't a whole lot of goals anyway this season to go around. I think there was 25 total goals scored by the Revs in the regular season. But Lee Nguyen, I give him an A- because he came in at a time of need, in a spot of need, and really, really, really filled the bill. Going over to Kakuta Mane, it was really hard to put a grade on this one again. So Mane, I give you a B-. 1 goal, 1 assist. He did make a pretty good impact on a couple of games. But yeah, so B-. I'm going to move on a little bit quicker because I'm taking too much time on some of these players. Tommy McNamara, I gave him a solid B. He just was a little engine that could, or the big engine that could, I should say. He just kept going and going and going. He had so much energy out there and always was fighting for the ball. So moving on. Okay, so that's the 3 players that we brought in. That is the player that we traded away. Who else do we have not returning? We got Jeff Caldwell. I just gave him an F. I mean, he didn't even get an appearance. I don't know how many times he made the bench, but it wasn't very many. I know we did have extra bench spots because of COVID this year, so he was on the bench several times, but he didn't get a single minute all season. And if you can't show that you deserve to at least get a minute, and I know Matt Turner was in net, and I know it was a crazy year, but if you're not getting ahead of the number 2 keeper on the depth chart, I know, I'm sorry. And then he's going to take up a senior roster spot next year, so it makes sense that he's gone. So Jeff Caldwell gets an F. Maybe it's harsh because we didn't get to see him play, so I apologize. Michael Mancian, I'll give you a D. And I'm sure maybe that's controversial. Maybe a lot of people are going to say, oh, you should have given him an F. But I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap because his mistakes are highlighted a lot more than what he does well. And what he does well is, he makes a lot of mistakes. And I'm going to say this year he made less mistakes than he's made in the past. I give him a D. And so long. And thanks for all the fish, Mike. Christian Pania, B-. It's a real shame. I really was hoping to see Pania back next year. Maybe we still will, but it's looking like he's going down to... I forget what country he's going down to. I don't know. He's looking at a couple clubs. You can see it on Twitter. They're talking about it. And Pania, Bruce really found a way to start utilizing Christian Pania right before he got injured, and it was really nice to see almost some semblance of the 2018 Christian Pania that we were all used to. The Ecuadorian DeLorean. It seemed like he was back, and that just didn't end up transpiring for the whole time. The injury really cut it short, and it was really a shame. But coming off as a super sub, and then being used as like a hybrid 10 and a 7 was a really interesting way to use him. He did very well. But anyways, best of luck in the future, Christian Pania. Moving on, Sestanovic, you got an F, and this time I am not making a joke like I did before. He had 1 appearance, 14 minutes all season long, and yikes. And maybe that's nothing against you, Seth. And I'm not trying to talk directly to you when I'm saying this, but I had nothing else to go off of. But why was a player brought into this team to only have 14 minutes all season, especially when they were healthy? From as far as I could tell, they were healthy every single game. We had our starting left back have issues with COVID. We had, I think, thinking about it, Brandon Bai didn't play in the playoffs. I think he was injured. And so that's when DeJuan Jones went to left back. We all thought DeJuan Jones was going to play right back and Sestanovic was going to start at left back. And instead, they just made DeJuan Buchanan play right back. So, maybe there's some way to spin this that's going to say Sestanovic was the reason that we tried DeJuan Buchanan at right back. I don't know. You can spin that however you'd like. Anyway, let's keep moving on. Antonio De La Mea, I gave him a C. He had that bad back pass on the MLS's back tournament, which really hurt us in the standings there. And He had kind of a poor year overall. I did give him a C. I think that's being kind to him. I know he's out of contract. I do hope to see Delamea back. He's a nice depth piece, and he just had a bad year. Diego Fagundes, I gave him a D. Let's move on. I'm not falling down that rabbit hole today. And Kellen Rowe was the last one on my list. I gave him a C-. I did expect a bit more out of Kellen Rowe. I know he's not the Kellen Rowe of 3 years ago, but still one of my favorite players for the Revs of all time. And a C-. When he came on, he was showing that engine, that desire. He kept going, and he wasn't able to turn it into anything. Wasn't able to produce anything. He had no goals. He did have 1.4 expected goals in the season, but nothing in the back of the net. He had no assists. He did rack up 3 yellow cards in 16 total appearances. I am not sure if we're going to see a Revs kit in the future. But that's it for so long, and thanks for all the fish. I have two more tiers left, so let's just jump right into the next one. Okay, so we've looked at all the players that will not be here in 2021, or at least are currently not slated to return. Let's take a look at some more players that are going to be back in a tier called They Are Who We Thought They Were. And we're going to start things off with Andrew Farrell. I gave Andrew a straight B. I thought he had a very solid year. If anything, I guess you could say he underperformed for my expectations because I was clamoring for him to be Defensive Player of the Year this year. He definitely wasn't that player. Did not come close to it. I will say, as a center back, playing in 20 games, only getting 2 yellow cards, over 1,700 minutes, that's pretty impressive. He had a couple of games where he had poor performances, but other than that, there was either really good performances or exactly what you need out of him. And that's the type of player that we know Andrew to be. That's why he's in this tier. Andrew, again, you got a B. Moving on down the list alphabetically, we have Marbies BFF. His name is DeJuan Jones. DeJuan Jones, you got a B+, my friend. Again, a solid year. Played in a couple of different positions this year along the back line. Most of the time playing at left back. 1,100 minutes, 1,134 to be precise. Again, like Andrew Farrell, you only had 2 yellow cards, which is pretty good. Although you did have 0.4 expected goals, which is higher than Andrew Farrell, who we previously talked about. And that's not too bad, although none were cashed in, but that's not to be expected from your position. Solid year. Again, you performed the way that we expect you to perform, and more than happy to see you progress in 2021. And again, shout out to Marbies because I apologize, I didn't give him an A+, but in my defense, I rated Buxa fairly as well, okay? Let's move on down the line. Matt Turner, A. Straight up, I mean, you can't say much more than that. He's got a straight A, and he is who we thought he was. You know, we came into this season thinking that he is the GOAT of New England Revolution goalkeepers as far as the history goes, and we have a storied history of keepers here. You know, when you're talking Walter Zenger, whether you're talking Matt Reese, I'm not going to throw Bobby's name in here, even though I just did. But Matt Turner, he's one hell of a keeper. I cannot believe the progression that he's having and the way that he keeps showing up time and time again, and bigger situation, and he's still there, not letting us down. He is who we think he is. He played in all but one game. He did have a slight knock in one of the MLS's back matches, I believe, or it might have been the home opener versus Chicago Fire. I can't remember which one it was. But he missed one match where Brad Knighton filled in, and so Matt Turner got that. And talking of Brad Knighton, he is also on this list. They are who we thought they were. Brad got a B-. Again, he only showed up in one match, although he has now a better save percentage on the year than Matt Turner. He did allow 1 goal. He made 5 saves, but he had an 83% save percentage, better than Matt Turner's 76%. So take that with an extreme grain of salt. But yeah, he was who we thought he was. And then lastly in this list, Scott Caldwell. He's showing that he's still MLS caliber starter. I wouldn't say that he is a player you want to build your team around, but he can come in and do a serviceable job. He is going to slow the game down. So if that's what you're looking to do, he is the player to put in. It's tough to work a counter-attacking game plan with him in, but Scott Caldwell, he still had a very solid season. I gave him a C+. Kudos to him for still performing the way he does. Although, watch those cards, because 4 yellow cards and 1 red on the season for Mr. Caldwell. But that's it. So that's it. I've done 5 tiers. I got 1 tier left. I only got 2 players. Real quick before I jump into that, I'm going to mention I did not add Damian Rivera, Luis Caicedo, or Colin Verfuth onto this list. Like I mentioned earlier, I did not add Isaac Enking or Nicholas Firmino either. So we will not give them grades because we didn't see any minutes from them this year. So, anyways, last tier. Alright, this video is getting way too long, and if you have stuck through to this point, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Please click the subscribe button if you'd like to see more of this content. I'm going to be putting out more during the off season. Let me know what you want to see, and we'll get into it. But let's finish off these grades right now. My final tier, they were here. These players, they showed up, didn't make too much of an impact either positively or negatively. I only have 2 players on this list, so let's jump into it. I got Alexander Butner first. I didn't know what to expect on this out of Alexander Butner. I expected high things, and I think that he kind of performed to that level, but at the same time, there was a lot of times where you forgot that he was even on the team. Not really sure exactly what he was doing. I did give him a B+ because I think he had a good year, but not as impactful of a year as we were hoping. He can definitely cross the ball. I think that he needs to do a better job of getting the ball onto someone's head, though. But yeah, I mean, 17 games, 1,200 minutes. He did get 3 assists, which is good for my left back, and he seems defensively sound. But nothing special. So yeah, I'm going to move on from Butner. Last player I have is Brandon Bai, and I gave him a B- because, I mean, he was here. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about Brandon Bai. Everyone was touting him as this next level defender, as a MLS best 11 right back, which I don't know where anybody got that from. He was fine at right back, but nothing special. He made a couple of mistakes here and there. I know we lost a point to one team, or maybe we lost the game. I can't remember what it was, when he fell down in the box after getting beat on some sort of double move. But those are the memories I have of Brandon Bai. He was here. It was a B-, not terrible, but nothing memorable. So that's it. That's what I got for my grades. Let's end out this video. That's it. You made it. The 1 or 2 people that are actually watching me talk right now, thank you so much for sticking around. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you think down below. And then, of course, we never got to one grade. That's Bruce Arena. And I don't know what grade to give him. Maybe a B-. I think is fair. He had a successful year, obviously, but I think there's room to improve. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Tell me where I was right. Tell me where I was wrong. I'm sure I was way too lenient on many of these players. Maybe I was too strict. I don't know. Again, let me know. Are you a player? Do you hate me for talking about you? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to interact. Anyway, you can always follow me on Twitter for more of these hot takes at Revs Revolt. You can always join me on Twitch, where I record these videos. That's twitch.tv/Revs Revolt. And recently I have been thankfully joining the podcast Revolution Recap. So you can always find me there at podbean.com/Revolution Recap. I could be wrong about that URL. I'll post it in the description. But by the time you're watching this video, a new pod would have already dropped, and we went over the entire season, or the successes of the season. I don't know. It was like a whole end recap. It's the Revolution Recap. We recap the Revs. So I was with Greg Johnstone and Sean Donahue, and We have a great time talking Revs over there. So check me out over there. And again, thank you very much. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a like if you like this video and you want to see more stuff. And until next video, because it's not going to be next week probably, take it easy. Peace.